a few moments of your time. As I sit here this evening, a lot of changes in our world, a lot that's floating around us. Certainly, we're on the eve of an election. And I do want to remind you that both Southland and 162 will be closed on Tuesday for Election Day. But that's swirling around us, and bad weather permeates our country. And in Louisiana, they're preparing for yet another hurricane. And then, of course, there's the virus. But I do want to share some things with you, some positive things. And I think that's something it needs to be out there. I try each day when I go home, because I'm really only in two places. I'm here in the office and I'm at home. And so when I'm at home sitting on the couch, I try to reflect on the day and think what has happened that can put a smile on my face, and what has happened in terms of accomplishing my objectives. The last couple of weeks, there have been several positive things that have happened. I've actually seen some of your children. We did have an in-person induction into the Honor Society, which went very well, 22 students, and of course, you viewed this live from home, but it went very well, and the atmosphere, at first the students, I think, were a little uncomfortable because of the fact of the mask, but when they looked around and they saw, and I told them, our eyes are smiling, and so it's the same thing as if you're looking at your lips and cheeks. Now we have to focus on the eyes because masks are a reality. It's not going anywhere. It's something that we have to do. But on a larger scale, we did host the ACT here in the building, about 140 students, followed by the PSAT, same numbers of students, juniors, and then yesterday, the seniors did the SAT. What we're looking at is planning for the future. You know that all of our assessments were postponed in the spring to the fall, and they were made optional. But we're absolutely focused on the fact at some point, we don't know when the point is going to be, but at some point, there's going to be a sense of accountability. They're going to return to criteria for admissions to colleges and universities, and our students have to be prepared. But in looking at that, what I did first of all was to look at the faces of the children. First of all, thank you for allowing them to come in. I know you had to think about it, but it wasn't really the same as them coming into a school environment where they're interacting with everyone. They came in masked, they were sitting at desks, the teachers were with them. It was really an ideal testing environment. I think that you're aware that even though we did some preliminary tests using a remote format, the ACT, the PSAT, and the SAT, we have to follow the national structure and their requirements, and you cannot do it remotely. But that did give me over 450 children to at least feel that in some way we were returning to what is normal. So that was a positive for me. But yesterday, Mr. Evans and Mr. Lights, who are in charge of our technology, told me our new Chromebooks came in. So if you have children at the Mattison and they're kindergartners, we're going to change out those laptops to brand new Chromebooks. So look for that message to come home. We hope to do it and be completed with this project no later than next week. But then at the Illinois, we were able to do the same thing for them, kindergarten through third. So what you can look forward to is an evolution of the district towards Chromebooks. I'm told they're easier to manage. Certainly, they're a little bit more expensive this time. I do think that there are companies that are benefiting financially from the pandemic, but that's a whole other story. So I'm happy that we're able to put more state-of-the-art technology in your hands, and that will be forthcoming almost immediately. All of our schools have materials, art materials, science, social studies materials that they need to send home to you for the second quarter. So you'll be hearing from each of your principals as we send that home. But you could have a 3 or 4 year old at the Richton. And so we tried to think about how will the laptops work, and they won't for 3 and 4 year olds. What about the Chromebooks? What we settled on, because most of them are just in the process of learning to read, were iPads. So we anticipate in the next couple of months that the Richton Square children and their parents will receive brand new iPads, and so it's a good thing. And so that it'll be a more simplified approach using apps that are icons so that they can just touch them and they will be able to access materials themselves, not without your help. But I think it will be a good evolution in terms of our learning. But, you know, there is a problem. I'm told that we have 25 to 30 broken screens a week. Okay. At first, because we have a arrangement with Dell, they were coming out almost every day to repair them. And now we have this huge backlog. So we continue to replace them. But I want to be quite honest. If you're on your second broken screen or whatever, and we did have one child, because they didn't want to do their homework, to throw it out the car window, which was interesting, then there's probably going to be a charge. So would you talk to your children and emphasize to them that it's a learning tool, they have to be careful, but we did just get in 1,600 padded cases. So perhaps when we distribute those, that might solve part of the problem. It doesn't solve the issue of throwing something out a car window, just a little humor, but it solves other kinds of problems. But obviously, there's something that I want to talk to you about that's a little bit more serious. You can't turn on the television without knowing what's happening in our nation, in our state, and in our area. The virus is building. I don't know why. You know that people say only 47% of us as Americans are wearing masks. Could be true. But what we do know is that we're returning to where we were in the spring. And you'll remember in the spring, we had high hospitalizations, people on ventilators, the positivity rate, in other words, the percentage of people per 100 that had contracted the virus was building. But then this summer, was a different thing. We were very hopeful because the positivity rate in our state was only 3.4%. We were allowed to have summer school without an issue. The numbers of people in the hospital declined. It seemed as if we were turning the corner. But now we're almost back to where we were in the spring. So last week, when we were looking at the numbers, we were aware that the hospital rate in what we call Region 10. Region 10 are the southernmost counties in Cook, and we are in Region 10, that the hospitalization rate was building. We were aware also that the daily positivity rate was getting higher and higher. And when we decided that we were going to go into a hybrid, we set, based on information from the Illinois Department of Public Aid and from the CDC, a maximum positivity rate that we would not exceed, because when you exceed that positivity rate, and it is 8%, then you're in a high-risk category. Yesterday, the positivity rate was 9.1% in Region 10, which is us. Today, it's 9.0, but there is a 7-day positivity rate of 8% over time. So it's troubling. You probably heard the governor, and the governor's closing down restaurants, closing down bars, restrictions, 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 but then there's us. There's us with the children. What he said yesterday, and it's, I don't want to say it's irrelevant, but he talked about basketball. And you know, where my head is, I really want to get the children back in the classroom. If we can play sports too, that's fine. But what he did was to shift basketball, I suppose, to the spring because it's too dangerous. But this 8.0 positivity rate, that is the point at which we're in risk of exposure. And so we thought about this, but not for long. We have to do what is right. And even though the academic achievement of our children, it's in question. We know that there are deficits. We know that it's an issue. But what is most important is the safety and security of the children. So what are we going to do? On Monday, we were looking forward to opening on the hybrid. So we're on the hybrid. We're on the hybrid. Okay. But Monday, we will come to you in a remote capacity, and we will continue on remote into November 16th. We're doing everything that we can in terms of thinking positive thoughts, masking, sanitation. We're prepared for the children, but all around us, it's an issue. And I do know that you're worried. Last week at Southland, 38% of you wanted to send your children for in-school instruction. This week, it was 34%. Last week, we were 44% wanting in-person instruction on the 162 side. This week, it's 39%. So I know you're worried. But when you're worried, we're worried. And we have to react. And so even though we are in a hybrid in terms of name, we're going to remain on remote instruction. Our buses are ready. Our schools are ready. We're looking forward to the children. If positive thoughts will help this, and I know that's naive. I know that's not what's going to help. I know that. But I do know also that this community, I've never seen anyone in this community in the last couple of months that are not masked. Sanitation, definitely. We're washing our hands. We're doing all the things that we can do. We know about social distancing. That's not our issue. So the solution to this lies in the broader environment. It lies in our state, in our county, in our country, and it's a problem. It's something that has to be resolved. And so, all right, we will look at the positives of this, in that our children will be safe, they will be home. We continue to improve in terms of our remote capacity. And we're looking towards the 16th. So everything that we can do, everything that you can do, we really need to get the children back, but we cannot take a chance and whatever is going on now because we don't know the reason. And that 9.1, that 9.2 positivity sticks in my mind. What's the reason for it? What is happening? And so we're going to follow the best counsel that we received, and that is that we will be in remote for the next 14 days. And we're very hopeful that we'll see your children in-house in our 8 buildings on November 16th. I'm here. I will always be responsive to you, but some of you ask me, when will this be over? I have to be honest with you. I think we will close this school year in a hybrid. I do not think that there will be a time in the next 5 to 6 months where all of us feel relaxed and comfortable and are not thinking about the spread of the virus. I think we're going to have to be careful, and we will do that. As usual, I thank you, thank you, thank you. I feel your presence all the time. Stay safe, and good evening.